By the time we get to domain 6, we're now really at what matters. This is about person-centered practice, and the whole rationale for working in a multi-professional way is to support people, ultimately. There are a couple of groups of indicators that I'll take as I explain to you how domain 6 is intended to work. 6.1 and 6.2 are a pair of indicators and should be seen as such. 6.1 asks you to think about the extent to which the service as a whole is able to be responsive to the needs of the individual. Do you have control over what it is that you do, or are you locked into a form of practice that you don't really have much influence over? 6.2 asks a similar set of questions, but about the individual practitioner. Are you able and willing to respond to what it is that you are faced with when meeting people and thinking about their care and support needs? 6.3 is an indicator which asks you to think about, from the person's perspective, how clearly defined your roles are. All too often, people can be confused about, well, who's playing what part in my care? So this indicator asks you to reflect on the extent to which you as a team have clarified that for people and done everything you can to erase any confusion that there may be. Indicator 6.4 gets you to think about what you do with the feedback that people give you, how regularly you ask for feedback and how easy it is for people to give you their perception of the support that you've offered, and what you do with that. Indicators 6.5 and 6.6 are another pair that go together. 6.5 focuses down very, very particularly on what matters. So to what extent is the support that you offer absolutely focused on what matters to that person? Have you asked them? Have you made an assessment using that form of conversation? And if you have, are you following that through in your practice? Indicator 6.6 asks you to think about the circle of people around that individual, but only where this is appropriate. Many people will have a supportive group of family or friends around them, and where that applies, we want you to think about the extent to which you involve them and communicate them in supporting that person. That won't always be applicable, and we know that not everyone will have that circle. So if that's the case for the individual service that you work within, it might be around domestic violence and abuse, for example. Again, use the not applicable column as you feel you need to. Indicator 6.7 asks you to think about the person's perspective on how you communicate with them. Are you using the language that they want you to use, whether that's a spoken language or a sign language? Can you accommodate their preferences? If so, you'll be marking yourself up against statements 4 or 5. If not, again, that will offer you an area of focus perhaps for developing your service offer. And finally, again, thinking about the person, indicator 6.8 asks you to make a judgment about how smooth the flow is that they have through the system. We know that one of the consequences of bad management of people across health and social care is that they often get bumped around, referred on to services that they don't really understand why they're there without clearly defined outcomes for them. In this indicator, we're asking you to consider the extent to which you mitigate for those risks and enable people to flow smoothly through the system.